and thank you for being with us today. I'm Farah Jadrin. Residents on the Key Peninsula will gather this afternoon for a community vigil meant to bring people together after a series of violent and traumatic events in the area over the past several months. Organizers say the event is meant to honor multiple victims and offer a space for healing. The vigil follows several recent incidents that have shaken residents across the Key Peninsula and its nearby communities. Last week, 4 women were stabbed to death on the Key Peninsula. The mass stabbing ended with a deputy-involved shooting. King 5 was the first to learn the identities of the victims. Here's King 5's Jim Nelson.
2 of them were on the Arts Commission here in Gig Harbor. Another was a volunteer with the Gig Harbor Chamber of Commerce. Giving back to their community was seemingly who they were, and now those who served with them are trying to cope with the fact that their lives ended in such a horrific way. 4 victims from different walks of life, now connected through tragedy.
It's just so awesome to live in this, enriched and community environment.
A genuine, yet now almost eerie statement from Joanne Brandani at a past Gig Harbor Arts Commission meeting. The 59-year-old was just identified by the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office as one of the 4 victims killed in Tuesday's mass stabbing. Another served alongside her.
Stephanie Killalay, Arts Commissioner.
Stephanie Killalay was 67. Late Friday, the vice chair of the commission, Carolyn Vranges, told King 5, incredibly stunned and saddened. Both were wonderful assets to our commission and cared deeply about making Gig Harbor a more beautiful place for all. They will be incredibly missed. Another victim, identified as 81-year-old Louise Talley, a volunteer with the Gig Harbor Chamber of Commerce. And of course, Zoya Shablikina, the 52-year-old mother of the suspect, Alexander Shablikin, who was shot by a deputy when they arrived at the grisly scene, first reported as a violation of a protection order which hadn't been served yet. Days later, neighbors are still struggling to comprehend.
You just wish they were there faster.
Oh my God, yes. I don't think anybody had to die, not even Alex.
The Arts Commission falls under the city government here in Gig Harbor. I did reach out to the mayor, but have not yet heard back. In Gig Harbor, Jim Nelson, King 5 News.
A mom, her son, and a dog were found dead inside a home in Pierce County in January. This happened in Vaughn, out on the Key Peninsula. Investigators say the father found them. Pierce County Bureau Chief Connor Board reports.
I'm going to warn you, this is a pretty tragic incident.
A usually quiet street in Vaughn, now filled with investigators, sadness, and shock.
We had a caller call 911 at 1:27 p.m. stating that he had come home from work and he found his wife and his adult son and the family dog deceased with gunshot wounds.
Deputies say the husband and wife allowed their 24-year-old son to stay in their home Monday night. They say he struggled with addiction and mental health challenges. When the husband went to work Tuesday morning, he felt uneasy. He returned home and found them all dead.
I think what's tragic about it is there's probably a lot of families that can relate to this situation that have a child or an adult child with a mental health component or an addiction. And last year we saw a couple of these homicides last year involving an adult with a mental health or a drug component that had murdered a family member.
Deputies say there are no outstanding suspects and that this situation is contained to the one home.
Not only did this father lose his wife, he lost his son, and your family dog too.
In Pierce County, a man accused of killing his estranged wife and her boyfriend in December faced a judge earlier this year. Here's Connor Board again.
Is your true name James Edward Carnegie Jr.?
Yes. 63-year-old James Carnegie is facing 3 counts of aggravated murder for the stabbing deaths of his estranged wife, 64-year-old Wendy Walker Carnegie, and her 39-year-old boyfriend, Chad Malloy.
We would waive from the reading of those and enter a plea of not guilty.
Pierce County Sheriff's deputies found their bodies at a home on Heron Island at the beginning of December after Malloy's family members had not heard from them and they didn't show up for work. Court documents show James Carnegie lived upstairs in the home and his estranged wife Wendy was living downstairs. Wendy made a 911 call about a domestic violence incident involving Carnegie just 8 days before their bodies were found. There is a detailed history in the court documents of police reports of domestic abuse, with Wendy suffering between several injuries and at least 4 no-contact orders approved to protect Wendy.
I do find there is probable cause to go forward with these charges, so I will enter pleas of not guilty on your behalf.
Just a day after the bodies were found, evidence pointed to James Carnegie, and he was tracked down to a motel in Kent. SWAT officers attempted to make contact with him, but breached when they realized he harmed himself with a knife.
Positive breach.
He was booked into jail last week after being released from the hospital. He told deputies that he found the 2 victims dead in the home, but did not commit the crime.
The state has filed a motion for detention without bail.
The victims of all 3 tragedies will be remembered today as Gig Harbor looks to mourn those who were lost. We go now, after a brief pause, to the event in progress.
We did our best to ask all the traffic to stop, but WSDOT would not comply. Said people have places to go, and so we will deal with the noise as it comes. So good afternoon, everybody. We are here today in grief and in sorrow at the recent acts of violence in our community. We are here today to grieve the loss of friends and neighbors, to name the reality of violence that has impacted us, and to commit to building a safer and healthier community for all who call this place home. My name is Dan Whitmarsh. I'm a pastor and a mental health counselor with deep roots in this community. It's a privilege to stand with you today as we navigate this moment together. As we begin, I do want to thank Pamela and Rachel for having the vision to organize this event, for inviting me to participate with you all. We do want to thank Local Boys for offering up the space and the support for this gathering. And I want to thank all of you for coming out today. We are one community, one family, and we need each other. So thank you for coming. We are hurting, and many are frightened because of these acts of violence. We acknowledge that the families of those who have lost loved ones are grieving in ways that we can only imagine. In recent months, 7 lives have been taken from us. 7 friends, mothers, sisters, community activists, artists, educators, and neighbors. Before we are finished today, we will name them. We will hold a moment of silence for them. We will join in solidarity with their loved ones, but we will also sit with our own grief, our own sense of violation. We must also name the ambiguous grief of these families because, as we know, the perpetrators of violence were not random strangers, but in 2 cases, family members lost to mental illness and addiction, which only adds to the grief and the confusion in the morning. The scriptures speak of groans too deep for words. This seems like one of those times. No words can express the pain and the sorrow here, and yet we will try. Friends, there is pain here. There's a deep sorrow that we share together. We have a few members of the community who will be sharing with us today, and I would like to invite Rachel to come up and say a few words.
I just wanted to say thank you everybody for coming. Now's the time for our community to really band together and try and help your neighbor and love your neighbor and be patient with your neighbors and community and kind of go that extra mile to make sure that everybody's okay as they're going through all this grief and traumatic events, and hopefully together we can create a love that will overpower all the evil that's going on right now.
We are going to hold a candle lighting ceremony, lighting a candle in honor of those we've lost. I recognize it's quite windy, which might make this a little difficult, but we will do our best in our thrifty KP way, will we not? So do you guys want to hand the candles out? Sure. If anybody wants to just come up and grab a candle, you're free to come get one.
Yeah, we've got some. Let's see if there's still light.
We'll see what they do. We prayed and hoped it wouldn't rain today. We forgot to ask that it wouldn't be windy. If you find it doesn't work, then hold your candle and use your best imagination, or pull out your phone and hold up your light if you want to do it that way as well. Well, friends, if I could, let us remind us of those that we have lost and hold a moment of silence for them. In December, on Heron Island, we lost Wendy Carnegie and Chad Malloy. In January, in Vaughn, we lost Jennifer Lance. And just last week, here in Wana, we lost Zoya Shablik, Joanne Brandini, Stephanie Kilalea, and Louise Talley. Let us hold a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. I drove by the scene of this most recent act of violence less than an hour after it unfolded. As I passed by, I saw my friend Ann walking into the chaos. I was reminded at that moment of those famous words by Fred Rogers, who said that when we experience fear, we should look for the helpers. We should look for those who show up into the chaos to help, to bring calm, to bring safety, recognizing the impact this has had on those who show up in these moments and have to witness the pain and the sorrow. I'd like to invite Ann Nesbitt, Community Resource Officer with the Key Peninsula Fire Department, to say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name's Ann Nesbitt. For those of you that do not know me, thank you for having me, and mostly thank you all for being here. Over the last 3 months, our community has experienced several heartbreaking losses connected to mental health struggles. As first responders, we have had the painful responsibility of being present in some of those moments. These calls stay with us, not only because of the tragedy, but because this is our community too. We are your neighbors, we're your friends, and your family members. Being a first responder in the place where you live is painful privilege. We are invited into the most difficult moments of people's lives. Sometimes we're able to help someone through their worst day, and sometimes we arrive in moments of profound loss. Either way, those moments remind us how deeply connected we all are. Right now, our community is hurting. Grief, confusion, and worry are being felt by many people, including the responders who serve here. In times like these, the most important thing we can do for one another is simple and powerful. It is to listen. Reach out to the people around you. Check in on your friends, your family members, coworkers, and neighbors. Sometimes the greatest support we can offer is just being present and letting someone know that they are not alone. Mental health matters at every level in our community. Taking care of one another, talking openly, and showing compassion can make a real difference. If you are struggling, please reach out. If you see someone who might be hurting, take a moment and listen. Our community is strongest when we are together and we take care of each other. Thank you for having me.
Anne probably would not want me to tell you this. When I reached out and invited her to speak, she said, I want the focus to be on the families of the victims and those who have lost, and not to be on the first responders. But Anne, thank you for the spirit of those who show up and who work so hard to serve us in these moments. And if you would pass back to them our appreciation for those who do show up on some of our worst days and bring the love and compassion and professionalism there. We are grateful. So what do we do now? Anne has already spoken to some of this, but in our pain and in our sorrow, it is easy to give in to fear, to anger. It is natural to want to build thicker walls to keep ourselves safe. It is normal to try to find somebody to blame. But fear too often leads to isolation. Anger and blame only feed more corrosion in our communities. In moments like these, it is important to remember that we are all neighbors, that we are all humans trying our best to make a good life for ourselves and for those that we love. There is nobody else here to solve these issues of violence and grief There is only us, and it is our work to do. The candles that we just attempted to light, they are our metaphor that we each have a part to play in shining the light and spreading the love, compassion, and kindness towards those around us. In a world today that is divided along so many lines, it is up to each one of us to live in the same way as those that we mourn today, seeking to make the world a better place, recognizing the importance of community, neighborliness, compassion, kindness, building bridges instead of erecting walls. Yes, we expect our elected officials and our first responders to support us, to come to our aid, but nothing will ever replace the work of local people caring about each other. No, I'm not talking about a defensiveness, but an offense of compassion and care, of neighborhood barbecues, of showing up to the art walk and concerts and movies in the parks, the Christmas tree lighting and the farm tour, knowing your neighbors and building relationships, even with people with whom we might not always agree. We have a choice to take our lights and hide them behind thick walls, or to let them shine for all to see. Jesus once said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Yes, we do grieve. We do mourn. But there's comfort to be found in our faith, in the beauty that we see in the world, and in the love that we show one another. Rabbi Steve Later once said that we can go through hell, but we don't have to come out empty-handed. We can find strength and courage and resilience in this place and commit to taking it out into the world. This is my hope for us, my hope for the Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor, that we would care well for each other. Friends, as Ann has already mentioned, and I want to repeat, there are resources. If you are lost in grief, if you are somebody that you know is struggling with mental health issues or addictions, reach out. Our community is full of churches and faith communities, of counseling centers, of community resource centers. You can come talk to me, you can talk to Ann, but look around you. Because this, what we experience here, is what is needed. Friends, neighbors, even strangers with good hearts. Let us remember those that we have lost, and in their memory commit to humbly loving and caring for one another. Those that we mourn, they cared about this community. They cared about their families. They cared about their neighbors. May we live that legacy as we leave this place and head back out into our community. We pray that their loved ones would find peace in their grief. We pray that their memory would be an inspiration to all of us. If you could imagine that your candles are lit right now. We're going to take them back out into the world and let this light shine. And sing with me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around our neighborhood, all around our neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. All around our neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. All around our neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.